Vincent Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the city below move like a living organism. At 38, he had built a tech empire worth billions. Every decision he made turned to gold. Every investment paid off. Every competitor fell before him. Yet as he stared at his reflection in the glass, he saw a man who had everything except what mattered most. His phone buzzed with another notification. Another successful deal closed. Another million added to his account. He silenced it without looking. The numbers had stopped meaning anything years ago. Vincent walked to his desk, where a single photograph sat in a silver frame. His father, Thomas Sterling, on the day they launched their first company together. That was 20 years ago, before the heart attack took him suddenly. Before Vincent inherited everything and lost everyone. "You need an heir, son," his father had told him once. "Someone to carry on what we've built. Don't make my mistake of waiting too long." Vincent had dismissed it then. He was too busy building, expanding, conquering. Relationships seemed messy and inefficient. Women in his social circle wanted his money or his status. He wanted neither complication nor pretense. He wanted something real, something that was truly his. An idea had been forming in his mind for months. Unconventional, perhaps even shocking to some. But Vincent had never cared about conventional thinking. That was how he had succeeded where others failed. He would find someone with nothing to lose. Someone who would agree to his terms without the emotional entanglement. A pure business transaction. Clean, simple, controllable. The woman with nothing left, Rose Bennett, sat on the cold sidewalk, her back against the brick wall of a closed shop. Her fingers moved quickly across the worn sketchpad, bringing to life a portrait of the city she both loved and feared. The charcoal smudged her hands black, but she didn't care. This was the only thing that made her feel alive anymore. 3 months. That was how long she had been homeless. The gallery that showcased her work had closed without warning. Her landlord evicted her before she could find new representation. Her savings disappeared faster than morning fog. Grace, her only friend, had moved across the country for a job opportunity. Rose had too much pride to ask for help, so she drew. On street corners, in parks, anywhere she could find light and space. Sometimes people stopped to admire her work. Sometimes they dropped coins in her cup. Most times they walked past as if she were invisible. A sleek black sports car pulled up to the curb. Rose barely glanced at it. Rich people came to this area all the time, heading to the expensive restaurants and galleries she once dreamed of entering, but this car didn't move. The engine idled. Through the tinted window, she felt someone watching her. Then the window rolled down. The man inside was stunning in a cold, calculated way. Sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, perfectly tailored suit. He studied her with the same intensity she studied her subjects before drawing them.
"You there?"
he called out. His voice carried authority that expected obedience. Rose looked up, but didn't move. She had learned to be cautious around strangers.
"Come here."
"I want to talk to you." She hesitated. Something about his directness was both off-putting and intriguing. "I'm not interested in charity," she said. Firmly, "Good, because I'm not offering any." Response surprised her enough that she stood up. Brushing the charcoal dust from her worn jeans, she approached the car slowly, keeping her distance. Up close, the man was even more imposing. Everything about him screamed wealth and power. But there was something else in his eyes. Something lonely. "Get in," he commanded. "Absolutely not. I have a business proposition. One that could change your life completely." "I've heard that before. Not from someone like me." He gestured to the passenger seat. 5 minutes of your time. That's all I'm asking. If you don't like what I have to say, I'll drop you back here and you'll never see me again." Rose knew this was probably a terrible idea. But terrible ideas were all she had left. Besides, she was curious what kind of business proposition a man like this could possibly have for someone like her. She opened the door and slid into the leather seat. The car smelled of expensive cologne and new leather. It felt like entering another dimension. Vincent drove them to a quiet coffee shop in an upscale neighborhood. Once inside, seated at a corner table away from other patrons, he got straight to the point. "My name is Vincent Sterling. I own Sterling Technologies. Perhaps you've heard of it." Rose shook her head. She had been too busy surviving to follow tech news. "I'll make this simple. I want a child. An heir to inherit what I've built. I don't want a relationship. I don't want complications. I want a straightforward arrangement with someone who understands this is purely business." Rose stared at him, certain she had misheard. "Are you asking me to be a surrogate?" "In a manner of speaking, I'm asking you to carry my child in exchange for financial security. Full medical care during pregnancy, a private room in my home, everything you need. And when the child is born, you'll receive enough money to start whatever life you want, completely free of any obligation." The impossible choice, the words hung in the air between them, like a grenade waiting to explode. Rose felt her heart pounding so hard she thought he might hear it. "This is insane," she whispered. "It's practical. It's buying a human being. It's offering opportunity to someone who has none. Be honest with yourself. What are your options right now? Sleep on the streets through winter. Hope some gallery notices your talent before hypothermia does." His bluntness stung because it was true. Rose had exactly zero prospects. Every day was a battle to find food and safety. She was 26 years old and had nothing. No family. No home. No future. "There would be a contract," Vincent continued, sliding a folder across the table. "Everything legal and binding. You would have your own lawyer review it. No hidden clauses, no tricks. 9 months of your life in exchange for a new beginning." Rose opened the folder with trembling hands. The numbers swam before her eyes. The amount he was offering would let her rent a studio, buy art supplies, maybe even open her own small gallery someday. But could she really carry a child for 9 months and then walk away? Could she live with that decision for the rest of her life? "I need time," she said, closing the folder. 24 hours. After that, the offer expires, and I move on to someone else. He stood up, placing a business card on the table. "Call Claire Watson, my assistant, when you've decided. She'll arrange everything." Vincent left without another word, leaving Rose alone with the most impossible decision of her life. The signature. That changed everything. Rose didn't sleep that night. She walked the city streets, her mind racing through every possible scenario. She thought about her mother, who had died when Rose was 16. What would she say about this choice? She thought about the child that would come from this agreement. Would they grow up happy? Would they ever know she existed? Would Vincent be a good father despite his coldness? By morning, Rose had made her decision. Not because she was certain it was right, but because she was certain she couldn't survive another winter on the streets. She called the number on Vincent's card. Claire Watson answered immediately, her voice professional and warm. Within hours, Rose was sitting in a lawyer's office, reviewing every line of the contract. The terms were exactly as Vincent had described. No hidden agendas. Just a straightforward exchange. She would live in his home, receive the best medical care, and in return, sign away all parental rights to the child. When she picked up the pen to sign, her hand shook. This was it. The moment that would define the rest of her existence. "Are you certain?" the lawyer asked gently. Rose thought about the cold nights ahead, the hunger, the fear, the slow death of hope. She signed her name. The mansion appeared through the morning mist like something from a dream Rose never dared to have. Iron gates opened automatically as Claire drove through, revealing gardens so perfectly manicured they looked almost artificial. Fountains sparkled in the sunlight. Marble pathways wound through arrangements of roses that had probably cost more than Rose had earned in her entire life. "Mr. Sterling wants you to feel comfortable here," Claire said, her tone gentle as she parked near the main entrance. "Everything has been prepared for your arrival." Rose stepped out of the car, her worn sneakers feeling utterly wrong against the pristine driveway. The mansion itself was a masterpiece of modern architecture. Glass and steel blended with classical stone columns. It was beautiful and cold at the same time, much like the man who owned it. Inside was even more breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from soaring ceilings. Original artworks lined the walls. Rose recognized a few pieces that should have been in museums. Every surface gleamed with the kind of cleanliness that required an army of staff to maintain. "Your suite is on the second floor," Claire explained, leading her up a sweeping staircase. "Mr. Sterling has his private quarters on the third floor. He values his privacy and expects the same respect in return." The message was clear. This was a business arrangement. Boundaries would be maintained. When Claire opened the door to Rose's room, she gasped. It was larger than any apartment she had ever lived in. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in linens that looked like clouds. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the gardens and the city skyline beyond. The attached bathroom featured a soaking tub that could fit 3 people. "If you need anything at all, just press this button." Claire indicated a discreet panel by the door. "Someone will respond immediately. Meals are served in the dining room, but if you prefer privacy, we can bring food to your suite." After Claire left, Rose stood in the center of the room, feeling completely out of place. She touched the silk curtains, ran her fingers along the mahogany dresser, tested the mattress that felt like sleeping on a cloud. None of it felt real. That night, lying in the massive bed, Rose stared at the ceiling and wondered what she had truly agreed to. The luxury was overwhelming, but the loneliness was suffocating. She was surrounded by beauty but felt more isolated than she had on the streets. The first encounter 3. Days passed before Rose saw Vincent again. She spent the time exploring the mansion, though most of it felt like a museum rather than a home. The kitchen staff prepared elaborate meals she ate alone in the vast dining room. Claire checked on her regularly with professional kindness. Rose was sketching in the garden when Vincent appeared. She had found a bench beneath an old oak tree that somehow felt more genuine than the rest of the manicured landscape. Her new sketchbook, provided by Claire, was already half filled with drawings of the mansion and its grounds. "You're settling in," Vincent observed, his tone making it more statement than question. Rose looked up, surprised by his sudden presence. He was dressed more casually than their first meeting, though his idea of casual still included designer labels and perfect grooming. "The accommodations are more than adequate," she replied formally. Unsure how to navigate this strange relationship, Vincent sat on the bench beside her, maintaining careful distance. He looked at her sketchbook, but didn't ask to see it more closely. "Claire tells me you've been avoiding the dining room. Feels strange eating alone in such a large space. I usually take my meals in my office. Would you prefer company?" The question surprised her. It seemed to surprise him too, as if the words had escaped without permission. "I thought you valued your privacy." "I do. But this arrangement works better if we're both comfortable." He stood, as if the brief moment of openness had exhausted him. "Dr. Harrison will be here tomorrow for your first examination. Claire has the schedule." He walked away before Rose could respond, leaving her more confused than ever about the man she had agreed to have a child with. The sound that changed everything. Harrison was a kind woman in her 50s, with gentle hands and a warm smile. She conducted the examination in a medical suite Rose hadn't known existed in the mansion. The room was equipped with everything a private clinic would have. "Everything looks excellent," Dr. Harrison said, reviewing the initial tests. "You're healthy and strong. We'll start you on prenatal vitamins and schedule regular checkups." Rose nodded, trying to focus on the clinical nature of it all. This was just biology. Just a body performing a function. Nothing emotional about it. Vincent arrived unexpectedly during the ultrasound appointment 2 weeks later. Rose was already on the examination table when he entered, his presence filling the room with tension. "Mr. Sterling," Dr. Harrison greeted him warmly. "I'm glad you could join us. We should be able to hear the heartbeat today." Rose's own heart raced as Dr. Harrison applied the cold gel to her abdomen. The probe moved slowly across her skin, searching. Then suddenly, the room filled with sound. A rapid, rhythmic whooshing echoed from the monitor, strong and steady and impossibly real. Rose's eyes filled with tears before she could stop them. That sound was life, a tiny life growing inside her. Not just a contract, not just a transaction, but something real and precious and terrifying. She glanced at Vincent. His face remained composed, but something flickered in his dark eyes. His hands, usually so steady and controlled, gripped the chair armrest tightly. "Beautiful," Dr. Harrison said softly. "Strong and healthy." The moment stretched between them, filled only with that persistent, hopeful heartbeat. When Rose looked at Vincent again, she saw something she hadn't expected. Wonder. Pure, unguarded wonder. After the appointment, Vincent didn't leave immediately as she expected. Instead, he walked with her through the garden, both of them silent as they processed what they had experienced. "Thank you," he said finally. For doing this was the first time he had expressed any gratitude beyond the financial compensation. Rose stopped walking, studying his profile in the fading afternoon light. "Do you ever think about what kind of father you'll be?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He was quiet for a long moment before answering. "My father was brilliant, but distant. He taught me about business, about building empires. But he never taught me about connection, about being present." Vincent turned to face her. "I don't want to repeat his mistakes, but I don't know if I'm capable of anything else." The vulnerability in his admission shocked her. This was not the cold businessman who had offered her a contract. This was someone lost and uncertain, trying to find his way. "Maybe you don't have to have all the answers now," Rose said gently. Walls beginning to crumble in the weeks that followed, something shifted between them. Vincent started appearing more frequently in common areas of the mansion. Sometimes he would join Rose for dinner, though conversation remained cautious and surface level. Other times she would find him in the library where she liked to read, both of them sharing space without needing to fill it with words. One evening, Rose found a package outside her door. Inside was a professional set of oil paints and canvases, the kind she had dreamed of owning but could never afford. No note accompanied it, but she knew who had sent it. That night, she knocked on Vincent's office door. He looked surprised to see her standing there in comfortable clothes, her hair pulled back, traces of charcoal on her fingers from an afternoon of drawing. "Thank you for the art supplies," she said. "Claire mentioned you preferred oils. I thought you might enjoy having proper materials. How did you know I worked in oils?" "I looked up your previous gallery showings. Your work is remarkable." It was criminal that the gallery closed before more people could see it. Rose felt heat rise to her cheeks. He had researched her art, had looked at her work closely enough to form an opinion. "Would you like to see what I'm working on?" The invitation surprised them both. Vincent set down his pen and followed her to her suite. She had transformed one corner into a makeshift studio, using the natural light from the windows. Several canvases in various stages of completion leaned against the walls. Vincent studied each piece with genuine attention. They were all portraits of the mansion, but not the cold, perfect version visitors would see. Rose had captured moments of warmth and life, a shaft of sunlight illuminating dust motes, shadow and light playing across empty rooms, the garden at dawn when dew still clung to flowers. "You see beauty in unexpected places," Vincent observed. "I see truth in unexpected places. Beauty is just honest observation." He looked at her then with an intensity that made her breath catch. "What do you see when you look at me?" Rose met his gaze steadily. "Someone terrified of losing control. Someone who built walls so high he forgot how to tear them down. But also someone who wants something real more desperately than he wants to admit." Vincent stepped closer, the air between them charged with something neither had planned for. "You see too much. Maybe you don't see enough." The moment hung suspended between them. Then Vincent stepped back, the walls rebuilding themselves almost visibly. "The next appointment is in 2 days," he said, his voice returning to professional coolness. "Dr. Harrison wants to do a comprehensive scan." He left quickly, leaving Rose alone with her paintings, and the growing certainty that this arrangement was becoming far more complicated than either of them had intended. The revelation, the appointment, started routinely enough. Dr. Harrison chatted warmly as she prepared the ultrasound equipment. Vincent had arrived early, sitting in the corner with his usual composed demeanor. But Rose noticed the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes kept returning to the monitor. "Let's see how the baby is developing," Dr. Harrison said cheerfully. Moving the probe across Rose's abdomen, The heartbeat filled the room again, that beautiful, steady rhythm. Rose smiled, feeling the now familiar flutter of emotion. Then Dr. Harrison paused, moving the probe to a different angle. She was quiet for a moment, her expression changing to one of surprised delight. "This is unexpected," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "What's wrong?" Vincent was on his feet immediately. "Nothing's wrong. Everything is perfect. It's just that you're not having one baby." Dr. Harrison turned the monitor so they could see clearly. "You're having two. Congratulations, it's twins." The world seemed to stop spinning. Rose stared at the screen where two distinct forms were visible, each with their own strong heartbeat. Two lives, two futures. Two impossible complications to an already complicated arrangement. Vincent sank back into his chair, his composure finally cracking completely. He ran both hands through his perfectly styled hair, leaving it disheveled. For the first time since Rose had met him, he looked utterly lost. "Twins," he repeated, as if testing the reality of the word. Dr. Harrison continued explaining details about the pregnancy, about what to expect, about necessary preparations. Rose heard the words but couldn't process them. Her hand unconsciously moved to her abdomen, where two lives were growing. Two babies she would have to give away. The drive back to the mansion was silent. Vincent gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. When they finally arrived home, he didn't go to his office as usual. Instead, he walked straight to the garden. To the bench where Rose had been sketching the day they first really talked, she followed him. Knowing they needed to discuss this new reality, "This changes things," Vincent said quietly, staring at the city skyline in the distance. "The contract didn't specify how many children, that's not what I mean." He turned to face her, and Rose saw something in his expression that took her breath away. Fear. Raw, honest fear. "I don't know how to be a father to one child. How am I supposed to care for two?" Rose sat beside him on the bench. Without thinking, she reached out and took his hand. He didn't pull away. "None of us know how to do this until we're doing it. My mother used to say that parenthood is just constantly figuring things out as you go, making mistakes and trying to do better next time." "Your mother sounds wise." I wish she could have met them." Rose paused, realizing what she had said. "I mean, met your children." But Vincent's hand tightened around hers. "Our children," he said softly. "At least for now. There are children." The word "are" hung in the air between them, full of implications neither was ready to examine. As the sun set over the garden, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, they sat together in silence. Two people bound by a contract that was becoming something neither had anticipated. Two lives intertwined by two tiny heartbeats that were changing everything. The revelation of twins transformed the mansion in ways neither Vincent nor Rose had anticipated. What was supposed to remain a cold business arrangement began warming, despite their best efforts to maintain distance. The nursery that had been prepared for one child was being redesigned for two. Claire coordinated with interior designers, while Rose found herself increasingly involved in decisions she had promised herself she wouldn't make. "What do you think of this color?" Claire asked one afternoon, holding up fabric swatches in the nursery. "Mr. Sterling said you should have final approval." Rose touched the soft, sage-green material, imagining it as curtains filtering morning light. "It's beautiful. But this isn't really my decision to make." "Mr. Sterling disagrees. He's been quite insistent that you're part of this process." After Claire left, Rose stood in the center of the room that would soon hold two cribs, two changing tables, two of everything. Her hand rested on her growing belly where she could now feel gentle movements. The babies were becoming real in ways that terrified her. She had started talking to them at night, whispering stories about the world they would soon enter. She told them about art and beauty, about stars and oceans, about all the wonders waiting for them. She never mentioned that she wouldn't be there to show them these things herself. Vincent had become a different person over the past month. The cold businessman who had propositioned her on the street now asked about her day, brought her books he thought she might enjoy, and insisted on attending every medical appointment. He had even started working from home more often, his office door open in silent invitation. One evening, Rose found him in the library reading a stack of parenting books. The sight was so unexpected that she laughed, drawing his attention. "Something amusing?" he asked, but there was no coldness in his tone. "I never imagined Vincent Sterling reading What to Expect When You're Expecting." He set the book down with a self-deprecating smile. "I'm discovering there's a great deal I never imagined. Like the fact that newborns need to eat every 2 hours. For months." Rose sat in the chair across from him. "Having second thoughts?" "About the babies." "Never." His answer came without hesitation. "About everything else?" "Constantly." The honesty in his response created an opening Rose had been afraid to explore. "What do you mean by everything else?" Vincent was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. This was supposed to be simple, a transaction. But nothing about this feels simple anymore. "No," Rose agreed softly. "It doesn't." The night everything changed, the nightmare started in Rose's 6th month. She would wake gasping, her heart racing from dreams of handing over to crying babies and walking away forever. The contract that had once seemed like salvation now felt like a cage she had built for herself. One particularly bad night. The dream had been so vivid. 2 babies reaching for her as she turned away, their cries echoing endlessly. She couldn't catch her breath, couldn't stop the tears. A knock sounded at her door. "Rose, are you all right?" Vincent's voice concerned and gentle. She wanted to tell him to go away, to maintain the boundaries they had carefully constructed. Instead, she heard herself say, "Come in." He entered wearing simple sleep pants and a t-shirt, his hair disheveled in a way that made him look younger and more vulnerable. When he saw her tear-stained face, something in his expression broke. "What happened?" He sat on the edge of her bed without hesitation. "Just a dream." "I'm fine." "You're not fine." "Talk to me." The dam burst. All the fear and pain she had been holding back came pouring out. "I can't do this, Vincent. I thought I could, but I can't." "How you?" "Every day they're more real. Every kick, every movement reminds me that I'm going to lose them. That I agreed to carry them for 9 months and then walk away like they never existed." Vincent's face reflected pain she had never seen there before. "Rose, I know what the contract says. I know what I agreed to, but I didn't understand what it would feel like. I didn't know I would love them before they were even born." She pressed her hands to her belly where the twins were moving, as if responding to her distress. "How do I survive giving them away?" Vincent reached out and gently wiped tears from her cheeks. His touch was tender in a way that made her heart ache. "What if you didn't have to?" he said quietly. Rose looked at him through blurred vision. What if you didn't have to walk away? What if there was another option?" "Vincent, don't. Don't give me false hope just to make me feel better right now." He took both her hands in his grip strong and steady. "I'm not. Rose, these past months have been the most unexpected of my life. You were supposed to be a simple solution to a problem. Instead, you've become the most complicated and wonderful thing that's ever happened to me." Rose's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that somewhere between that first ultrasound and now, everything changed. You changed me. Made me want things I thought I was incapable of wanting." He lifted one hand to her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "I'm saying I don't want you to leave after the babies are born. I want you to stay. With them. With me, Vincent, I'm in love with you, Rose. Completely, terrifyingly in love with you. I think I started falling that day in the garden when you told me I see beauty in unexpected places. You're the unexpected place where I found everything I didn't know I needed." Tears streamed down Rose's face, but they were different now. Not tears of grief, but of overwhelming emotion. "I love you too. I've been so scared to admit it, even to myself. This wasn't supposed to happen. The best things never are." Vincent leaned forward slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When their lips met, it felt like coming home. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper, filled with months of suppressed emotion and denied longing. When they finally pulled apart, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me. Not because of a contract, not because of the babies, but because you want to build a life together," as Rose whispered. Yes, I want that more than anything. They held each other as the night slowly gave way to dawn. Two people who had started as strangers bound by a contract and had become something far more precious. Tearing up the past the next morning, Vincent called his lawyer to the mansion. Rose sat beside him in his office, their hands intertwined, as the confused attorney arrived with the original contract. "Mr. Sterling, I don't understand. Is there a problem with the agreement?" "No problem. I'm terminating it." Vincent took the document and without ceremony tore it in half, then in half again. He kept tearing until the contract that had brought them together was nothing but confetti on his desk. The lawyer stared in shock. "Sir, there are legal procedures. Draw up new papers. I want Rose recognized as the mother of these children with full parental rights. I want her name added to the birth certificates, to the trust funds, to everything. And I want us to explore what we need to do to get married before the babies arrive." Rose turned to him, surprised. "Married?" Vincent brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles gently. "If you'll have me. I know this is fast. I know we're doing everything backwards. But I don't want there to be any question about us. We're a family. I want to make that official in every way possible." "Yes," Rose said through happy tears. "Yes, I'll marry you."
Ow.
The lawyer, still processing, managed to stammer, "Congratulations. I'll prepare the new documents immediately." After he left, Vincent pulled Rose into his arms. "We'll do this right. A small ceremony if you prefer, or something larger." "Whatever you want. Just want you," Rose said simply. "Everything else is just details." They were married 3 weeks later in the mansion garden. Beneath the old oak tree where Rose had been sketching the day their relationship began to change. Claire stood as witness alongside. Dr. Harrison. It was small and intimate and perfect. Rose wore a simple white dress that accommodated her growing belly. Vincent couldn't stop looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. When they exchanged vows, both of them cried. "I promise to love you and our children with everything I am," Vincent said, his voice thick with emotion. "To be present, to be real, to tear down every wall I ever built if it means being close to you." "I promise to see you for who you really are," Rose replied. "Not the businessman, not the billionaire, but the man who learned how to love. I promise to build a life with you filled with art and laughter and truth." When they kissed as husband and wife, both of them felt the baby's kick, as if celebrating along with them. 2 miracles. Rose went into labor on a rainy Tuesday evening. Vincent had been reading to her and the babies, his hand resting on her belly, when she suddenly gasped. "It's time." He went pale, but sprang into action with impressive efficiency. Within minutes, they were in the car heading to the hospital Dr. Harrison had recommended. Vincent held Rose's hand the entire way, murmuring encouragement and love. The labor was long and difficult. Vincent never left her side, wiping her forehead, breathing with her through contractions, being the anchor she needed. When she was too exhausted to continue, he looked into her eyes with such fierce love that it gave her strength. "You can do this. You're the strongest person I've ever known. Just a little more, my love." At 11:43 that night, their daughter was born. She came into the world crying lustily, her tiny fists waving. Vincent cut the cord with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect," he whispered. "Rose, she's absolutely perfect." 6 minutes later, their son followed. He was quieter than his sister, his dark eyes seeming to take in the world with solemn curiosity from his first moment. The nurse placed both babies on Rose's chest, and she looked down at them with wonder. They were tiny and wrinkled and beautiful beyond measure. Her daughter had a shock of dark hair like Vincent. Her son had her delicate features. "Hello, little ones," Rose said softly. "We've been waiting for you." Vincent leaned over them, his arms surrounding his entire family. "Welcome home." They named their daughter Lily, after Rose's mother. Their son they named Thomas, after Vincent's father. 2 names carrying love forward through generations. The life they built 6 months later. Rose stood in her art studio watching Vincent play with the twins on a blanket spread across the floor. The studio had been his wedding gift to her. A sun-drenched space on the mansion's top floor with perfect light, and room for all her supplies. Lily was grabbing at her father's finger, trying to put it in her mouth. Thomas watched with serious eyes, occasionally making small cooing sounds. Vincent talked to them constantly, telling them about their day, about the world, about how much he loved them and their mother. Rose was working on a new series of paintings. Not the cold, perfect mansion she had first drawn, but their home filled with life. Vincent asleep in the nursery rocking chair with a baby on his chest. Lily's first smile. Thomas discovering his own hands. Their family becoming real in oils and canvas. "Come here, Vincent," called to her. They're doing that thing where they look at each other and seem to have secret conversations. Rose set down her brush and joined them on the floor. The twins were indeed staring at each other with intense focus, as if communicating in a language only they understood. "Do you remember that first day?" Rose asked, leaning against Vincent's shoulder. "When you pulled up in your fancy car and made me that impossible offer?" Vincent wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "I remember thinking I had found a solution to a problem. I had no idea I was finding everything I had been missing my entire life. No regrets? Not a single one. Best business decision I ever made." He grinned at her. "Turns out love is excellent for the bottom line." Rose laughed and kissed him. Lily chose that moment to spit up on Vincent's expensive shirt. Instead of being horrified, he simply laughed and cleaned it up. "This is your life now," Rose teased. "Spit up and sleepless nights." "This is everything," Vincent corrected, looking at her with such love it still took her breath away. "You and them. You're everything." That night, after the twins were finally asleep, Vincent and Rose stood in the nursery watching them. Two perfect miracles sleeping peacefully in matching cribs. The room was painted that soft sage-green Rose had chosen, filled with love and hope and possibility. "Thank you," Vincent said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing past the walls. For taking a chance on an impossible arrangement. For loving me even when I didn't know how to love myself." He turned to face her. "For giving me a family and a future and a reason to be better than I was." Rose cupped his face in her hands. "Thank you for finding me. For seeing something in a homeless woman drawing on the sidewalk. For being brave enough to change." They kissed in the soft glow of the nightlight. Two people who had started with nothing but a contract and had built something extraordinary. Outside. Rain began to fall gently on the gardens. Inside, for hearts beat in rhythm. A family born from an impossible agreement. A love that had grown in unexpected places. Two babies who would grow up knowing they were wanted, cherished, deeply loved by parents who had found each other in the most unconventional way. Vincent Sterling had set out to find an heir. Instead, he had found a home. Rose Bennett had been surviving on the streets with nothing but her art and her hope. Now she had everything that mattered. Sometimes the best stories begin with the most impossible chapters. And sometimes love finds you in the last place you would ever think to look. In a contract, in a business deal, in two tiny heartbeats that changed everything. This was their beginning. And it was perfect.